Okay, so this is actually just a short little test ride here. Trying out this app on the phone called Scenic. A friend of mine turned me on to it. And so far, planning and sharing seems to work really well. And it seems to be a very well designed app. Specifically set up supposedly to not detour you, and when you are on a route that you have predefined. So I'm going to test this out, and basically what I want to see is, if I make turns other than what I'm supposed to make, does it in fact keep me still on the route? And right off the bat, the thing that I'm noticing is that I had...
In 950 feet, turn right at the T-junction onto Titleist Trail.
Okay, so I am getting voice guidance. But one of the first things that I'm noticing is that I supposedly had no auto route. So, navigating and tracking, it shows the hide zoom buttons, and it's supposed to not automatically zoom. And I thought it was. One of the things that I liked about this app in particular was first and foremost, the light maps. These are like black and white maps, and I think that might actually make the maps readable even on the phone in direct sunlight. We're going to pull up the maps on the Garmin unit so that we kind of have a side-by-side. And we're going to see a couple of things. I'm going to try out. Okay, it does look like it stopped auto-zooming.
Now turn right at the T-junction onto Woodstock Road.
Okay, I don't know if that's going to show up in the video or not, but I am getting the, turn-by-turn directions. And again, really what I want to see here is what happens. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn off of the planned route, and I want to know what's it going to do. Because ideally, like I've talked about before, I don't want a GPS that's going to reroute when I'm trying to navigate a track. So here I've made a wrong turn.
Now turn left onto Prairie Knoll Drive.
And see, it is recalculating. I was under the impression that it wouldn't do that.
In 900 feet, turn left onto Spring Meadow Drive.
This is, to me, the problem, because especially when you're navigating tracks that aren't common roads, that really causes an issue.
In 550 feet, turn left at the T-junction
Now,
onto Fairwood Drive.
it does appear to be trying to get me back to the track that I was originally on versus shortcutting, but I don't want it to do that at all. What I want is for it to simply hide route behind you, auto zoom, detour. See, it says detour behavior, go back or recalculate. And I have it set to go back. And it is having me go back, but not really to the point that I went off the track. So, I don't know. I think, yeah, and there's some direct sunlight. I don't know if you guys can see that too well or not. I'll try and kind of aim the camera down. But these are some of the problems that I run into trying to use the phone for GPS. First and foremost is that screen brightness. As you can see, in direct sunlight, it just can't.
Now turn right at the T-junction onto Prairie Knoll Drive.
it just can't manage. See, it's not taking me left back to where I went off the route. It's taking me close to where I left the route,
In 400 feet, turn left onto Stone Hollow Drive.
but not exactly. I also have it set to hide the route behind me, and yet it's still showing a green line. There again, if you can see that, it's very difficult to see that phone screen in direct sunlight, and hopefully if you can see both at the same time, you'll get an idea of the difference. The Garmin unit is that e-reader technology, and it just really does get easier and easier to read the more direct sunlight that's on it. The other big difference, and why I like the Garmin unit so much, is because when you set a track, it's a track. It doesn't route, it doesn't give you turn by turn, but what it does is it keeps that line and that track perfectly where you wanted it. Again, right there in that direct sunlight, I can barely see the phone screen, and the Garmin is crystal clear. So the Garmin, again, it'll put that track on the map. The track is fixed. It never moves. It's just a line on the map, and that's really what I want. Now, when you're planning, this Scenic App does do a really good job of just, picking the points and then taking the path that you want it to take. But this is just a short test path. Where it'll really come into play is when we go to more of these off-road rides, like the one that we're going to be doing very soon up in Michigan. When you're not on a main road, sometimes these are fire roads or roads that aren't BC level roads that aren't really on most maps. And I'll be very interested to see how it behaves when we get into that scenario. So this is just an initial test. I don't think it's going to be a situation where it can replace the Garmin. So the question you might be asking is, well, then why are you even bothering with the phone? And the answer to that is Garmin is great in terms of this unit. I love the unit itself. Where I can't stand Garmin is in the planning and the routing through Basecamp. And it seems to be getting worse with the newer versions of OS X. People on PCs may not face this problem, but I run a Mac for everything. And on a Mac, it seems like with every release, the software gets worse and worse in terms of its compatibility. The other big thing is Garmin is stuck in this old school mentality. Back in the day, software companies really had to protect with license keys and things like that because there was so much piracy that was going on. And I understand that. But they take it to an extreme where I have purchased hundreds of dollars worth of maps from Garmin. The unit itself came with 24 or 100K topo maps. I purchased 2 regions of 24K topo maps, and I purchased the City Navigator street maps. Yet when I'm on my Mac and I'm trying to plan a route, I cannot use any of those maps unless I bring this unit in the house and hook it to my computer. And that's not that big of a deal, but when you do that, it's really, really slow. I mean, painfully slow. So that's really the primary reason why I'm even looking for another option, is to see whether or not I can find something that allows me to plan the routes better. Sharing routes, sharing tracks. Yes, Garmin offers GPX exports, and that's the standard. I use it all the time. There are files all over the internet for various routes. But, inevitably, I want to be able to do my own planning. And so that's the main reason why I'm trying to look for an alternate solution. Lots of guys really like the turn-by-turn directions. I don't personally. It is kind of nice to get it in my headset, and again, I don't know if that's going to come through in the video or not. Hopefully it does. I picked this route through the neighborhood here just because it looked curvy on the map, and again, I wanted to test out, not navigating main roads. So far, I do really, really like this software. The big buttons, the plus and minus, turning off the auto zoom, that works well for me. I have the stitched glove. I don't know if you can see that. So I can touch the screen, but it doesn't work all that well. So having a big plus and minus to zoom in and out works really easily, even with these gloves. You can see there, I just zoomed out a bit. And so that's a really well thought through interface. And so the guy who developed the software, I give him huge credit, and I'll link the app in the description below so that if you want to purchase this, you can. The other thing that he's done that I really, really like is a lot of the features. It's a free app, but a lot of the more advanced features that you're going to want, offline maps and sharing, things like that, export to GPX, some of those are paid features. But what he does, that's pretty standard, but what he does that I really like is that he gives you credits when you download the free app, and you can use those credits to try the paid features before you actually buy them. And that is something that everybody should take note of, because otherwise you're stuck with just the free stuff, which everybody knows that's not what you're going to want. And then, you don't know whether you're going to like the app or not until you buy the paid version, and then you've already spent the money. So very well thought through. I really like the app. I think it's the best one that I've tried so far. I've tried a bunch of different ones. There's an app called, I think, Gpx Tracks or Gpx Navigator or something like that. And that one does do what the Garmin does, which is just display the track and not try to route it or do any of that or rerouting. Now, again, I really, really like this app if it were just available on a device that actually had that e-reader type of concept. I'm going to pause here for just a moment because I'm going to hang a left here, which is not the route that I have planned. Again, just to test and see what does it do. How far off of my original track does it take me to try and reconnect? And I'm going to go down here a ways just to see. Okay, so it looks like, again, it is trying to get me back to the route as quickly as possible. However, what I wish it would do is try to get me back to the point where I left the route. See, it's trying to, let me see if I can zoom out here and take a closer look at what it's doing. Yeah, it seems to have, tried to find an alternate route, which is not at all what I want, especially when navigating Gpx Tracks. So now what I'm going to test is I'm actually going to turn around here and go back to where I left the route and see if it then, takes me back on my original planned route, which is a common thing. You miss a turn. Okay. So it shows that it was a detour detected. Yeah, it does look like it. Okay. So that might be a very workable solution because it's still trying to kind of take me and shortcut it. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip their shortcut and go all the way back to the stop sign and see if it, picks that leg back up that I had originally planned. And then when I get back home, I'll kind of overlay, excuse me, what I rode. Yeah, okay. I'll overlay what I rode to see, did it wind up varying, how much of my original planned route did I wind up missing by following its directions. So, so far I like it. Again, I really like these black and white maps because as far as being able to see in direct sunlight, it gives you the best chance. Too much color is a bad thing on these screens. It's only occasionally that I'm having trouble seeing it at certain angles of light. Again, that's where this device comes in really, really well and works really well. If there were a mobile device that incorporated this same screen technology, then I think it might be a real workable solution. And for me personally, I'm usually a Mac and an iOS guy. If there was an Android device that offered that, along with this app, I would seriously consider making a switch and then permanently mounting something like that up here in lieu of the Garmin unit. I am running this off of the inductive charger, so the other thing will be to see whether or not it can withstand all of the apps running. And what I mean by all of the apps is generally I would use navigation and I would use music. You know, those are the kind of the two things that I use all the time while I'm riding. The KTM offers the ability to pull up in the My Ride. I'll try to show that to you here. In the My Ride, you can pull up the audio controls and you can, play your music and you can skip tracks. I won't do that right now for copyright purposes, but because of that feature, I use it all the time. I like listening to music when I ride, and it's good that the audio is coming through, because the way this setup works on the 790 is the phone is not actually paired to the Scenic unit. Instead, the phone is paired, and then the bike is paired to the Scenic unit. So you're kind of passing through there, and some apps don't behave well in that scenario. They want you to specifically connect the phone directly to the Scenic unit, and the audio doesn't come through. I don't know whether the turn directions will continue to announce while the music is playing, whether it'll pause the music, whether it'll zoom. That part I will have to test out, but again, I'll have to do it when I'm not filming so that I don't get into copyright issues. Again, I'm probably not going to edit this too much because I just want to give it to you guys raw. This is my first test ride with this app. There you go again. I don't know if you guys caught that, but it's that certain angle of the sun that causes that screen to really not be visible. Let's try something here. I want to see. That mount where it is actually works really well. I don't know if you guys can see that when I'm looking down or not. I got to try and pay attention to the road here. Looking down at it while standing, which is a lot of times how I'm doing my navigation because we're oftentimes riding trails and off-road, that's actually pretty good. It's a nice setup and angle. The other thing that I'll call out that I didn't really care for, and Android guys are going to have a field day with this, I originally had my phone-mounted landscape mode, and that's the way I would have preferred it with this handlebar mount because it keeps it tucked down and it's not blocking the factory dash LCD at all. However, a lot of apps, do not support that, and iOS in particular does not support rotating the screen landscape. They used to on larger devices. I don't think they do that at all anymore. But either way, on this device, it does not support it. So I had to flip the mount around so that it would be in this portrait orientation. It continues to work well because, again, the home screen and other apps don't always function correctly anyway. So it's probably the better setup, but it's just a little crowded in this configuration, as you can see, simply because of where the tank bag fits, where the handlebars are, where the LCD is, and then the Garmin mount. Now, obviously, if I could get to a solution where the phone would fully work and do everything that I wanted it to do, well, then I would probably get rid of this and move the inductive charger up high here and only have the one screen, which would be really nice. But in the interim, with it being in portrait mode, it does block. I can't see right now without peeking over the top the level of traction control that I have or the throttle response mode that I'm in. For me personally, that's not too big of a deal because I don't tend to change that too often. I set the throttle response, I leave it in rally mode all the time. I set the throttle response to either street or rally. Rally's a little more aggressive, street's more aggressive, and then there's like a normal or something like that that I never go into. Same with the slip angle. I have played with it a little bit because my rear tire is wearing pretty good, but as long as the tire is in good shape, I honestly don't rely on the traction control too much. I usually set it pretty low, 3, 2, or 1, and then control the wheel spin with the clutch, and don't worry about trying to let the computer do it for me. Because of those things, that's not that big of a deal for me. It's certainly not ideal. I mean, you can kind of see this, same with the lower revs of the RPMs. There's a little bit of that view that's blocked there. And certainly, it does look a bit like Command Central here with all of these screens, and it could be very distracting if you're not responsible in terms of your usage of it. So for me, I don't get distracted because I'll usually turn off notifications and all that on the phone itself so that I'm not getting any SMS messages or phone calls or anything like that. It's just the map and my music, which I can control through the handlebar switch. And I just ignore everything else. And I'm only glancing at that, which is the same thing that I do with the Garmin unit, so there's not much of a difference there. Again, this is the first ride that I've done with this setup and with this particular app. So far, it actually seems to be working the best out of any of the apps that I've tried. So again, this app is Scenic, and you can download it from the App Store. I'll put a link in the description below. Give it a try. Let me know what you guys think. Again, it's free to try. You get free credits. You can do the offline maps features. There's a lot of functionality that you don't have to pay for, and then if you like it, then you can buy it. The other thing that I'll quickly mention is the other apps that I've tried, they tend to use like a real granular tile-based map system, and downloading a region of maps takes absolutely forever. My experience with this one is that they download on a state-by-state basis here in the US, so that makes it really easy, and they download very fast. So far, this is hands down the best GPS app for motorcycles that I have personally found. I want to thank John. He's been in a lot of the previous videos. He's actually the one that kind of turned me onto this app. He used it previously, sent me a link to some of the tracks that we had from last year in the same area that we're going to be going back to next month. So be sure to stay tuned. I'm going to go ahead and give this a try on those routes too, which will be a lot more trails. Those are actually, we're buying trail stickers. The route includes 2 different Michigan trail systems. So that'll be purely off-road, and I'll be very interested to see how this performs in that situation. Obviously here I'm on relatively main roads, so that's a pretty easy situation for any GPS app to handle. We'll see how it does when we get into those trail systems. I'll have both of them running just because I need a backup. I'm going to be leading a group, and so the last thing I need is to be lost while trying to show others the way. Stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, be sure to click that subscribe button and the bell notification so you get notified whenever we upload new videos. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it useful, give it a great big thumbs up. If you didn't like the wind noise or any other thing that might be part of this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. We appreciate the feedback for both. We know that it gets windy when we're doing these videos on the fly like this. We do have the wind muffle on the microphone, and it's inside the helmet, but it's inevitable when you're out riding. This windscreen is not that tall, so it doesn't do that much in terms of blocking the wind noise. So, for now, that is all, and until next time, please take care, ride safe, and stay safe. Enjoy the summer. It is slipping by us very quickly, and with everything that is going on, at least get out and ride and take a break from everything else that's happening. It will help you to enjoy. You can stay safe. You can ride solo, or you can ride with a group and keep your distance, whatever works for you. But again, I really hope that all of you out there are staying safe, and I hope that all of you are, in fact, enjoying the good weather now that it's here. Get out there, ride, stay tuned. Again, like, subscribe, share. Until next time, take care and ride safe.